We're searching for a way to live life beyond the mask. If you have symptoms and test positive for COVID-19, a clinical research study may be your opportunity to help find a treatment. Talk to your doctor and visit studyforcovid.com to learn more.
All right. We are back. If you didn't listen to the first hockey podcast, that was the Western Conference we went over. Now we are moving on to the Eastern Conference. We're going to just dive right in because if you want to know more about the layout of how we're doing this and whatnot, listen to the start of the Western Conference podcast. Otherwise, we're just diving right in because our Western Conference, we ended that at like an hour 15. Yeah, so we're going straight in on this. Once again, you have me, Dom, and you have our special guest, Jake, who's going to appear on hockey podcasts pretty steadily, once or twice on football. So we're going right in. We're diving into the Leafs, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Starting with the Atlantic.
Atlantic, yeah, we're starting with the Atlantic. Yeah. So first team, the Maple Leafs. I mean, come on, we have stories galore here. Oof. Lead us right in with the Tavares story.
Went home. Like, they got the big fish. They were already a star offensive team, and they landed the biggest free agent. And I don't think he got everything he could have. He definitely took a pay cut to go there, to go home, and be with that group. So, I mean, it just, when it comes down to it, they gotta win now. Like, they got some young guys they gotta pay soon, but William Nylander's still holding out, which I think that's actually by design more when you really look at it. Miss a couple games because there is a cap flexibility that they do get if he misses a couple games before he signs.
Fair enough.
Where he gets an elevated cap hit in the first year, but then discounted rates in the years following, which I did not know until a month ago, or not even a couple weeks ago, while listening to Leafs radio stuff.
All right.
Which would help them considerably when you guys figure next year they got to sign Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews, along with some other young guys like Josh Levo, Par Lindholm, Kasperi Kapanen, who
you actually know. So Leafs generally is really a pretty youthful team all the way around. I mean, you have your oldest player is Marleau.
Who, they'll get some flexibility soon with that. But
and Marlowe's pretty consistent still. Marleau, you know what you're getting out of him. He's not bad at all.
He's actually got some wheels for an old guy. Like, he's got some wheels on him. He's not the slow vet like that you would think with, like, Joe Thornton.
And so, I mean, the Maple Leafs, you know what we're getting.
They're the deepest offensive team in the league. By far.
Absolutely.
Not a question.
Absolutely. They lost McElhinney not too long ago, and they
lost him on waivers, and they lost Pickard to the Flyers.
Calvin Pickard to the Flyers. But they still have Freddie Anderson, who's still the top goaltender that he is, especially for them. And then their backup is, what's his first name, Jordan?
Garrett Sparks.
Jordan Sparks. Al.
Wow. Look at you.
What's his name?
Garrett Sparks.
Wow. Garrett Sparks, who had a tremendous season last year in the AHL. He was a top goaltender in the AHL. So
he's more known for the miraculous save, though. So I want to see how that transfers really the NHL, because normally when you're in the AHL and you're making these highlight reel saves, you would want them to be more low key, in position, being in the right spot rather than being out of position and then flash save.
Absolutely. So I mean, but still, that's not a bad backup in any way. Really, the Leafs, there's not many concerns other than
defense. But they did score, or they had the Leafs team high, franchise high in points with that defense last year, and they only got better.
Yeah, so really, there's not many concerns going into
They added on
the
a strength and made
Leafs.
a strength, an overwhelming strength.
To me, I feel like the biggest concern for the Leafs is getting the Nylander contract done
as soon as possible.
But really, even without Nylander, they still have a tremendous team, and that's only going to add. So it's not even a concern. It's just, let's get it done. I mean, really, their top team, again, like they've been, and they'll be even better. They have Tavares, obviously, who he is. Everyone knows what you're getting in Tavares. So that's
And they have one of the nastiest penalty kill units in the NHL.
yeah,
That is a dangerous, scary penalty kill unit. They're fast and they can score on you a lot, and they will kill it off most of the time.
absolutely. So I mean, really, the excitement's still there. The hype's still there for Toronto. Toronto's packing out their city center and their arena. Still, I mean,
The league is so much healthier when the Leafs are good.
yeah, absolutely.
A lot of people make fun of the Leafs and they don't like Leafs fans getting all excited, but can you blame them? They've been bad for a long time.
And they have some awesome players.
And they're just great for the league.
Yeah. So I mean, really, they are the team we've seen, and they'll be even better. Really, that's all. They're
a good team.
The Atlantic Division's pretty tough. And talking about the Atlantic Division being tough, we lead right into the Bruins. The Bruins they're not too different from last year. They went into the playoffs last year. They play hard. One of the hardest playing teams in the entire league. One of the most physical teams in the entire league. They pound it in there, and they pound the puck in there as well. I mean,
and they're
what
not.
kind of changes do we have here on Boston? Really,
not a lot.
Nothing.
It's
much at all.
Rick Nash has decided not to come back and contemplating whether he wants to continue an NHL career.
Yeah, which I mean, Rick Nash wasn't a big part of their season last year.
He was not a big part. No. They trimmed some fat last year to get him.
Yeah,
it allowed some young fast rookies to add to their team style. It helped. It was one of those addition by subtraction things. They did get better, even not on paper. Wow, because of the trade they made for Rick Nash, even without Rick Nash.
So, wow, that was. We have
Well,
the Philadelphia Colorado game on in
the background, and a kid just got his first goal in the NHL.
Oh wow, you were just telling me about him. We'll get to that. We'll totally get to that for the Flyers. That was a broken play, man.
Okay, we'll get to that later.
I can't not watch this. This is insane.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just taking advantage of opportunity. That's awesome. So Bruins.
That first line is a killer. It's the number one line in all of hockey.
Which is?
Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron, Pasternak.
Absolutely.
Number one line in hockey.
Absolutely. Bergeron is probably the best defensive
They lock you
forward.
down and they'll score all over you.
Yeah, and Brad Marchand, everyone knows what you get in Brad Marchand. You can criticize Brad Marchand all day. He could be the rat player that you talk about, whatever. But the guy knows how to put the puck in the net.
He knows the rules and he knows how to score points.
Yeah.
He knows what he can and cannot get away with.
And he pushes the line, absolutely.
He knows he'll also get backed up. You see it all the time. He'll do something on the edge and he'll skate backwards looking for help.
Absolutely.
He looks for some of those big tough guys.
You can say what you want about that. You can have your own opinion about Brad Marchand. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of him either. But the guy knows how to put the puck in the net. If I was a Boston fan, I would be always excited about this guy. I would back him up all the time.
He's a guy you love to have on your team, hate to play against.
Absolutely. So that first line, like we said, Pasternak with the youth. He's got that. Bergeron being the lockdown defenseman or defensive forward in the league. Still kind of arguably the best.
I believe he was outdone last year, but a little bit of bias. But I think Sean Couturier should have gotten the Selke last year.
Fair enough. You had Anze Kopitar in there every year.
But
other people make
Patrice Bergeron is unreal when it comes to being in the defensive zone and then scoring points as well.
Absolutely.
What you need to do if you're a Selke winner. You need to be able to put the puck in the net, but also keep the puck out of your own.
That first line alone sets Boston as a standout. But then their defense, Char is still there. He's still the captain. He's still as big as he is. He might be slowing down a little bit, but
he sped up last year. He sped up.
That is true. He had a good year last year. And a guy that big still makes an impact on the ice. If you have your head up skating towards the guy, there's no way you're not intimidated by him.
His stick can reach you from 25 feet away.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's insane still. Whether he slows down a lot, if he's in the defensive zone, he's making an impact. That's that. They have
more depth than people
Charlie
think.
McAvoy, who had a great year. He's a great player. Jake DeBrusk also had a decent year last year. He's a good player. He's a good forward.
Jake DeBrusk, I'm very high on.
Yeah,
I was very high on him going early last year. He's fast. He's got great hands, and you can dish the puck from a phone booth.
Yeah.
He can, no matter where the handcuffed, he can get the puck to somebody.
I didn't really know him before last year. I don't know if many people did. He established himself as a
especially with the
name last year. He was pretty
the big play on Jake Gardner in the playoffs in Game 7.
Yeah. So Boston's still a hard team to play against. They still compete so hard against every team. They're gonna make the playoffs. Even in this hard of a division, they will.
The only thing that will hold them back is what I've been saying. If you watch the Western Conference, their young guys do provide depth, but they do not have the 3 centers.
Yes, absolutely. They do not.
They got 2 of the best.
Who are their centers going down the line?
We got Bergeron, Krejci.
Those guys are so established. They are.
Krejci has health issues every year, but he is one of the best when playing.
Yep.
And then Noel Achari.
Who was decent last year, but he's not a top.
Their young guys are all very solid, but he's not where you would want him to be on a championship team.
Absolutely. Who's their 4th line center?
Sean Corrali. Another one, same position.
Way. Absolutely.
Same way.
I mean, going into last year, I didn't know too much about
good.
Boston, and I saw them play live, and there were just a ton of names I didn't recognize. And by the end of the season, I just kept seeing these names. They were still on the score sheets, and they were making an impact everywhere on the team. So, really, Boston's a good team to look at. Tuukka Rask is still a question, especially we saw this year. They opened up the season against the Caps, this year. And Tuukka Rask let 5 up before the halfway point in the game, and he had to be pulled. Yaroslav Halak looked good.
He has looked good.
But he still faced a high-powered Capitals offense, so, I mean, he let in a goal or two. But still, Tuukka Rask, still not the most consistent goalie, but when he plays good, he's a top goalie.
When he's on, he's on.
Yeah, when he's off...
Ooh, is he off? Because there were some very leaky goals in that. Now we have some hindsight from making this. They already played a game. We saw it. He'll probably bounce back.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
He'll probably be able.
Boston did win their next game.
Yeah, they did win the next game.
I don't know who the goalie was.
I believe it was Halak. I believe it was Halak.
But still,
I'm probably wrong, but
it's a decent 1-2.
Halak, really I'll always think is probably better than he really is because of. I remember the playoff series back in the day with. Literally, there was like signs outside. You got Halaked when he was just locked down.
When he played for the Islanders?
No.
Before that?
Ottawa.
Or
Montreal.
Okay.
Montreal.
All right. Before Carey?
Before Carey. It was early. This was a long time ago. This was like, was it 2009 or 2010?
I don't know too much about Halak's career, so I couldn't tell you.
He like almost single-handedly shut down the Penguins.
Oof. All right. Well, I mean, like,
yeah, it was 2009-2010 season when the Blackhawks beat the Flyers.
Mm-hmm. And that's when Halak was top.
Halak had like a magic run until the 3rd round.
Well, I mean, he's still not bad. He had his inconsistent years on the Islanders, but he's definitely a solid backup for someone like Tuukka Rask, who's going to blow some games where Halak's going to need to take over once or twice.
They got some young guys that fell at the bottom and actually provide some under the radar. Like Danton Heinen, you saw him coming on Game 7 last year, and it was a difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
Difference maker.
Absolutely.
And the games when they took him out middle is when the Leafs came back in that series. He was a big part, even though he was not a well-known guy and 4th-line player.
Fair enough. We're going to move on to Tampa Bay, the super team Lightning.
The three heavy hitters of the Atlantic.
Yeah, right off the bat. There's no doubt in our minds that these 3 teams are going to the playoffs. Tampa Bay may be leading them, maybe Toronto.
Where they end up?
Yeah, it's going to be all over the place the whole season, I feel. We've talked about this personally between you and me, that it is Tampa Bay is a super team. Yzerman built this team as a super team. You know, he set this team up. But because it's a super team, the window is not big.
You can only go... You saw this with the Rangers, because it's basically still the Rangers team, just down in
Half
Tampa.
the Rangers, yeah, honestly.
You saw the Rangers, where you can only be all in going for it for so long before the bubble breaks and the bottom falls out and your prospects can't replace veterans.
Yeah. I mean, there's some veteran players. Ryan McDonough, you and me have talked about him when he was on the Rangers a few years ago, being like one of the best defensemen. Absolutely top 5. And he's on this team with Victor Hedman, Victor Hedman is
best defenseman in the NHL.
He won the Norris Trophy last year.
Well deserved.
So, I mean, you're talking about two guys that can hold up a defense single-handedly. They're together. I mean, you still have guys on that defense. They lost Schuster, but they gained McDonough. It's not even a big deal.
Not a big deal.
So,
it's really the bottom maybe falling out. The Kucherov contract kicks in next year, and they got to pay a lot of guys. This may be...
Yeah, talk about this, because you just showed me this in between our two podcasts.
They don't have a lot of cap space, and this is not even counting because it's not even on for this year because it starts next year. The Kucherov contract, where they gets a $5 million pay increase.
Yeah,
and they only have
huge.
$1 million extra in cap space this year. Not big saying something you can get rid of players, but
I mean, like,
I think this is really the year.
They have so many players who
their whole defense needs to be signed. Strawman.
Who's the two guys? Oh, I forgot about Strawman. Strawman's like
solid.
Strawman's now like under the radar because they have all these other guys. But Strawman,
Coburn, Girardi, and Slater Cuckoo, who is an restricted free agent, and with arbitration, so that's probably not a big hit.
No,
they can get that down real low.
But I mean, they can't sign all these guys.
They can't sign all these guys. There's no way they sign all
these
these guys.
Who are the two guys locked down that I see there?
Hedman and McDonough.
McDonough.
That McDonough contract, which he also gets a raise, will be why they fall off a cliff.
Okay.
I think this is their last year of serious contention before they're done.
Well, are there any clauses on the McDonough?
Modified no trade.
Okay, how many teams does it say?
It says it is a 10-team.
10-team. So, I mean, they could maybe ask McDonough to
that's
submit
not the
that
same
next
one.
year.
That's his old contract with the Rangers. I do not have the one for Tampa.
Yeah, I don't know how.
That's another contract that has yet to kick in, so it's not going to give me the information on that one.
All right. Well, either way, I mean, I couldn't see them locking him down on like a no trade clause.
They locked him down for what was it? 7 years. It's almost $7 million.
The Rangers did.
No, the Lightning for his next year's contract.
McDonough?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So maybe it is a long-term decision, which is interesting. I mean,
but
it's cool. Tampa Bay might not be scored against, but they're not going to have any depth if they,
That's going to be their Achilles heel if they do take a turn like I think they will after this year.
Fair enough. So we talked about San Jose, having the same trouble kind of thing where it's a 1-year window. And if they want to keep certain players, they will not have the same team they have this year and next year.
Yeah, Yzerman did not, in the last couple of years, has not followed the model that he was really given in Detroit. Mm-hmm. He went for broke. And he
built a super team. There's no doubt about it. This team's insane.
They did have good. They do have good rookies, like steals they get as like the drafting model that he got from Detroit. Mm-hmm. The old school Detroit. I
mean, they've had guys on this team that they drafted that panned out as well. That there a player that have panned out. You have Braden Point. You have Cedric Paquette.
Yanni
they
Gourde,
play their
who also
roles.
got paid.
Gourde.
Both of them.
Yeah. So I mean, something needs to happen next year or in this offseason.
Gourde is an unrestricted free agent, but Paquette is again another restricted with arbitration.
I mean, maybe look to see if Tampa Bay does something on the trade deadline, depending on their how their season goes. Same with San Jose, obviously, like we said before. But maybe they're going all in and they're just going to deal with it in the offseason. They have a lot of guys heading in the free agency this year. I mean, from looking right here, I see 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 guys, some key players that are heading in the free agency, restricted and unrestricted.
And then a year after next, you got to pay Vasilevsky.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't mean to be, that guy, but I am not convinced on Vasilevsky. Some people are.
We got that in the notes. Is Vazzy for real?
Yeah, is Vazzy for real? I'm not convinced on him. Ever since Ben Bishop has left, Vasilevsky has had a team in front of him. There's no doubt about that.
And there were times this year where
I'm not convinced on Vasilevsky. I think of this like Cam Talbot. I think of this like Hallebuck last year, where I just don't see him being the consistent top guy for years to come.
Because there was that big drop he had late in the year going into the playoffs where he was not great.
Yeah. And, I mean, it could have been them adjusting to a new team.
Or they had already had it locked down because there was no one else in the Atlantic that was going to threaten their...
It's true.
It was whether they just finished 1, 2, or 3, but they were going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was guaranteed very early with the rest of the Atlantic being very bad that year.
I think they finished
They finished first.
They did, yeah.
They finished first and played the Devils.
Well, I mean, even if Vasilevsky has a bad game, you have such a team in front of you.
They can score their way out of problems.
Absolutely. But that's not the way to play hockey. That's not, you need a good goaltender if you want to have successful years. Either Vasilevsky is real and I'm wrong.
I think he's good enough. I think he's good.
He's good enough.
I think he's good enough.
I mean, you can't have
I think he's consistently
a
good
completely A++ in every position throughout your depth on your team. Obviously, there's going to be downfalls. There's going to be B's, B pluses, B minuses. And Vasilevsky is that B+, B- for me, and the rest of the team's an A+. But even then, you still have such a team, it doesn't even matter. If Vasilevsky is playing average, your team is above average by far.
Yeah, you really only they only need league average goaltending.
Absolutely.
That's all they really need.
I mean, who's their backup? Peter Badai was on there.
It is.
I couldn't tell you who their backup is right now.
Louis Domingue.
Louis Domingue, who's still not bad.
Not bad.
I mean, he still has a team in front of him. So
it's all they need to win the cup is league average goaltending.
Yeah, absolutely, and a nice run to be hot at the right time. And I don't think
they entered the
there's
playoffs cold.
Yeah, if
snuck
they
out. They beat the Devils pretty handily.
But the Devils are another team where they're not going to compete that hard in the playoffs this soon. In their franchise.
They really kind of lucked out, in my opinion, to a battered Bruins team from that Leaf series.
Yeah, that's also true, and
then completely fell apart at the end of the.
I mean, yeah, it was the Capitals last year. The Capitals were the best team they were going to play. It is what it was. We saw how that went down.
Yeah, they got the benefit of being the number one, so they played a not a great team in the first round.
Yeah.
A flawed team, I should really say, in the first round because they give people problems. They're fast, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. So that's really that. Steve Yzerman, talk about that a little bit just to catch us up on that situation with Steve Yzerman.
So he's stepping down from his position, and he's going to be I'm assuming that's mostly due to they won't pay him what he thinks he's worth. So he's going to say, I'm going to be here in an advisory role until someone steps up and pay me.
Which, I mean, he still built this team.
Yes.
So they still have the team he built. So, I mean, it is what it is. So moving on, Detroit. Detroit's an interesting team. They're not bad. They're not really good. They're not, well, I'm saying they're not like bottom. I mean, maybe in this conference and division, though. They're
probably
pretty
going to
low.
be a bottom team.
But they're not lacking talent, is what I'm trying to say.
They are lacking a lot of talent.
You think they are? They have talent on their team to get stuff done. I mean, Zetterberg's gone, but he was on his way out anyway.
I didn't expect him to play regardless. I don't think he might actually be hurt, he probably is. Mm-hmm. And he's old. I didn't expect him to play this year at all going into the year before anything came out because if you just look at his salary, he has one of those old school illegal contracts where the actual money paid in salary goes down to almost nothing, and it's like they can just shelf the contract.
See, when I talk about talent, I'm thinking like, they have Dylan Larkin, who's obviously talented. Everyone knows that. He is who he is. And then they have their draft this year.
None of them are playing this year.
Tremendous. No, but moving on forward.
Yeah, moving forward.
They have the talent to make
it's another team. Done. If you listen to our the Western Conference one, very much like the Vancouver Canucks. They got some young guys. They really do. One of them is starting this year. Cholowski, a very good young defenseman.
All right.
But it just take the phone away from Ken Holland when it comes to signing guys.
Yeah.
And it's not even like free agents. It's his own guys and re-signing vets. Like Mike Green should have let him go.
Well, Mike Green's not even playing now.
Yeah.
Mike Green has some health issues.
They re-signed him. They locked him down for, I think, another few years.
Which, I don't know when he's coming back. I think that's like an indefinite thing. We'll see in the future how that goes. That's almost like Ryan Kessler. So, Mike Green's a total question for their future.
They really just threw money at all their old players from the run.
Who's the best player on their team right now?
Larkin.
Dylan Larkin. And after that, it's what? A drop-off?
Oh, huge drop-off.
Huge drop-off. So, I mean, they had Riley Sheehan or whatever. He's gone.
Yeah. Michael Rasmussen's a young guy that's... You got to keep an eye on him for progression.
Okay.
But they got to get rid of...
Who's playing with Larkin on that team, on that line?
Nyquist and Mantha. Mantha is a good player.
We already know the Nyquist deal.
Yeah.
Nyquist didn't pan out how he was supposed to.
He was amazing for
to me.
a
He
little
still
bit.
can. He still can play. Maybe he can have a good year. It's always an option. Like, it's always possible. It's always on the table that maybe he has a good year. But we still have yet to see him play how he's expected to play.
So, aside from that one year he was on with Zetterberg, or when I believe Zetterberg was out. I forget the situation. It was a while ago, and he went unreal for a little bit. And I finally was thinking, because he was one of my guys.
Yeah.
Where I was like, watch for him when he develops, and he had that year. I'm like, here he is.
Mm-hmm. But then,
and nothing since.
Yeah. So I mean, Nyquist, he has the skills, he has the talent. He just doesn't produce.
They have too many guys from the glory years locked down for too much money for too long.
What's their defense look like?
A lot of guys.
A lot of guys. That's the term. A lot of guys. Just guys.
They got two young guys. They got it finally in the lineup. But
right.
Danny Kaiser is okay.
The Kaiser, yeah, he's all right. They have Justin Ablocator, who's
terrible.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like Darren Helm, Ablocator, all these guys that he just keeps signing old veterans. Franz Nielsen, yeah, you're gonna really recapture the streak.
It's one thing if they have him on there, but the worth that they have him listed at is too much.
They overpay too many. Like Justin Ablocator is signed through 2023.
Yeah. For what reason? For how much money?
4.2.
That's too much. For too much time. You don't have any flexibility in that kind of a contract.
And you also got a no trade list.
I mean, come on. So that's kind of the story for Detroit. You have guys that are on that team that can produce, but very few.
And now with all this stuff about the vets re-signing them for too long, they had, in my mind, the best 2018 draft.
Yeah, I mean,
it's very close with them, and I think they signed all of them.
No, but like who'd they draft? There's top three.
Well, I think they were right there with Buffalo with the best draft. Well, Buffalo had a very good first 2 rounds, but they had the 3 biggest steals of the draft.
All right,
Mike said this when it was happening.
Oh yeah, I remember this completely.
Zadina falling to him. I thought he was falling. I thought he was the best forward in the draft.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people make fun of me because they think Brady Tkachuk or Svechnikov, who's going to be very good.
Svechnikov, yeah,
they're very good players.
He did score last night.
I just think he's got the attitude that I like.
Philip Zadina.
Zadina is Baker Mayfield,
in hockey.
Fair enough. He wants. Bet.
He's yeah. He has the skills. He's up there, and he has the attitude to make it happen. He's motivated.
They signed him. I believe he's starting the year in the AHL.
Okay.
Somehow. I don't understand how that really worked.
Well, I mean, his training camp was tremendous. I constantly saw videos coming out of Detroit of him doing stuff.
Yeah.
His skills are
and
insane.
When he has the puck on his stick, it's you hit the oh crap.
Yeah.
button.
So there's him. Who else?
Joe Veleno, who going into that draft was pretty much guaranteed top 10 pick, some top 5.
And he fell
to the second to last pick in the first round.
That's right. So I mean, which is weird because I remember Zadina being such a big deal, and he fell to what, like 12th or
5.
something, 5th?
No, 5 or 6.
6?
It was. Or he didn't go far.
He didn't go far, but you expected him top 3.
I expected him to go at least 3.
And then Veleno.
And then in the second round, McIsaac. Very good defenseman.
All right, fair enough. He's not playing this year either, right?
No, they signed him, but he's not going to play.
Okay, fair enough. So, interesting. I mean, it's a team for the future.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen now, especially with their competition.
Get their GM out.
And I'm looking right now. I can see this from here. They have picks.
Yeah, they got a lot of picks.
They have a lot of picks going
this year.
Forward.
This year, they got a lot of picks.
Yeah.
They have 2 seconds, along with all their own picks. They have every single one of their own. An extra second and 2 extra fifths.
And an extra
7th. Conditional 7th.
So, I mean, whether they trade those and whatnot, they have flexibility when it comes to the draft.
Little conspiracy theory. I think Yzerman's going back
to Detroit, and that's why I stepped down. Well, potential.
Because there also is a lot of rumors that Holland will be the new Seattle GM if and when that happens.
We didn't even talk about that. We'll talk about that.
That's a later date.
Yeah,
that's a later date.
Or maybe a different podcast. Absolutely.
That's a later date if it materializes a little bit more. They're still got to vote on it.
So we'll move on to. I know you want to talk about this. I want to
talk about Montreal.
Montreal Canadiens. There is a ton of controversy surrounding them right now between
people thinking Bergevin is an idiot.
Yeah, there's that. There's this. There's Carey Price
running captains out of town twice.
Talk about it. How do you analyze this team?
Well, first of all, if you have Carey Price on your team, you have a chance to make the playoffs.
Automatically.
That's it.
Absolutely. He's the best goaltender in the world.
Easy.
There's no doubt.
I believe he's fully healthy now. Mm-hmm. Because in last year he looked very human, which is saying that he looked human is saying to what his skill level is when he's on.
Yeah, and they who'd they beat today?
They beat
Pittsburgh 5-1.
There's a fast.
That's a Carey Price thing.
They went young and they went fast.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. When you're a bad team, or supposed to be a bad team, and you got young guys, that's your hope. Go young, go fast.
There's always potential.
Go young guys. And play fast.
They
do.
One thing I wasn't happy about opening night, and I don't know if this is my Capitals bias, but I mean it's kind of sad all the way around. Bergevin didn't start Carl Alzner, a vet, when the guy has the Iron Man streak of 622 games, which is tremendous. If you can stay healthy for 622 games, that's insane, right? And he's moving up in record books for it. I mean, it's something that he has pride in, something he's proud of. And honestly, for no reason, Bergevin
I forget the reason.
Doesn't start him.
He didn't start. He's healthy scratched in the first game.
Healthy scratch. I was honestly very sad to see his Iron Man streak stop.
Yeah.
And end for almost no reason.
Carl Alzner, he's not a today's player.
No. He's a veteran player.
He's not a new NHL player.
Absolutely not. No. But he is. I believe he can crack a top 6 roster for the defenseman. I don't see a reason to just healthy scratch him on this team. Yeah, I mean, who are they playing ahead of him?
Not a lot. Not a lot of guys that I know of.
Yeah. So
besides Jeff Petrie, Victor Mete is not.
Is Shea Weber healthy?
No.
Shea Weber is not even healthy.
Broke his ankle, something like that.
Yeah. So I just don't see how you can just break this Iron Man streak like that. I mean, that's kind of rough. It is what it is. We don't know, we don't exactly know these players that are playing over him. We don't know the deal exactly, obviously.
Bergevin's never been the make nice with the players kind of GM.
Yeah, I mean, it's very fair. But I think that's a little bit brutal for Alzner. They also healthy scratched Buchanix.
Actually, I believe that's probably a coach's decision, to be honest.
Yeah. Or either way. I mean,
Claude
it's
Julien.
kind of... It's brutal.
Of course, he's got to be French, but...
Yeah, Claude Julien.
They play fast. I love Kotkaniemi. I criticized it at first,
yes,
and then I saw him play, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
He's not. He's a future there. He's pretty good. Other than that, they lost Galchenyuk. Obviously, they got a
very good haul for Pacioretty.
Yeah, they did.
I don't think the Max Domi for Galchenyuk trade is as bad as most people think it is.
I don't think for either team, really.
I think it's a very much win-win. A lot of people think that Bergeron should put down the phone when that one, but
I don't think that's that big of a deal. Galchenyuk hasn't been what they wanted to in Montreal. So let's get a fresh guy in here who's young. I mean,
a lot of people. I think the problem was mostly that he's not a center, and they're probably going to play him at center.
Max?
Yeah,
fair. What do you think of him as a player?
I like him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player.
He
has potential. He can really do most things. He can stand in there with almost anyone. He's a good player. He just is. So, I mean, other than that, do they make the playoffs this year?
Probably not.
No, but it can happen. I mean,
I don't think in the East. I think the East is too tough. Even if Carey Price goes unreal, but they are no cakewalk team.
No, absolutely.
They are not a cakewalk team.
It's like talking about Arizona again, but they're a little bit more established than Arizona.
No, Arizona I would say is more established. This is a bunch of question marks.
That's fair. I mean, like, there's more veteran players here that we're looking at on Montreal. Players that have been here for a little bit. I mean, you still have Shea Weber. If he can get in healthy, he's still a top defenseman. He's their captain now, which is interesting.
So it means he's probably going to get run out of town in 2 years.
Yeah. So Montreal's just pending, really, to say.
Yeah.
They
got a lot of picks this year. A lot.
Okay. Yeah,
a lot.
This coming year?
This coming year.
Yes, they do. As much more than Detroit, actually.
A lot more. They have a lot of picks.
Two
they
seconds,
don't. Before we get into this, they don't have their own 5th or 7th.
Okay.
But they have their first, which is probably going to be a lottery pick because I doubt they'll make the playoffs.
Yeah, top or bottom 10.
Bottom 15.
Fair enough.
Whatever the cutoff number is.
Mm-hmm.
They have theirs and Columbus's 2nd, their own 3rd, Flames 4th, and their 4th. So then they don't have their 5th. They have Blackhawks and Oilers.
All right.
And they have 6th, and then Winnipeg 7th.
Okay. Well, I mean,
and
like I said, pending really.
Nick Suzuki, who they got for they got a good haul for Pacioretty.
Yeah.
It's kind of questionable. They probably got more of a haul for Pacioretty than Ottawa did for Carlson, but.
So that's really that. I mean, yeah, that's really that for Montreal. Moving on, an exciting young team, Buffalo, the Sabres. Really, just a ton of talent on this team all the way through. They got Dallin, obviously, on the draft.
It's gonna be hard for a defenseman. For all people who think he might win the Calder, it's hard for a defenseman on a probably below average team to win a Calder trophy.
Yeah.
It's hard for any defenseman to win a Calder trophy.
Absolutely.
If Shane Gostisbehere in that record year didn't get it, I don't think many will.
Yeah. So there's just youth everywhere.
They got their team built by that Ryan O'Reilly trade.
Yeah, I was gonna say they lost Ryan O'Reilly, but that's not
that built their team.
Loss for the team. Take us through who's. They got to look at on this team.
A lot of guys that you want to keep your eye on this team. I don't know how good the team will finish, but there's a lot of guys where you want to keep an eye on them. They got Casey Middlestat, who very good young guy, highly touted coming out.
Absolutely.
Of course, Jack Eichel, who's our new captain.
Yep. Who's a new number now? Number 9, right?
Number 9 now.
They have Reinhart.
Sam Reinhart finally got signed to a contract.
And really, other than that, they
Dallin,
just have players.
Rasmus Ristolainen's a good player.
Absolutely. I mean, two young, good defensemen on defense.
That when Ristolainen was drafted, it was the first of the Flyers when they started to submarine off that 2012 playoff run. And they were a couple picks behind, and I really wanted Ristolainen, and Buffalo got him a couple picks earlier.
And he's really produced. Like he's
been a good player. He's a
big
good
deal
player.
there. And now
you got a
with Dallin,
you got a little bit of a jerk in him, what you want from your number 1 defenseman.
So, I mean, they have that going for them. Kyle Okposo they have, who can possibly have a year. They have Jeff Skinner, which
fleeced Carolina for Jeff Skinner.
We don't really know how he's going to do there. But if he's been anything like he is in Carolina, he's a pretty decent second liner. If he's on their third line, he'll do certainly really well. What do their lines look like?
Because Connor Sheary with Jack Eichel and Sam Reinhart.
Connor Sheary. I didn't even know they had Connor Sheary.
Yeah, that was a depth unload for the Penguins.
Yep, absolutely.
Or cap dump, I should say.
So Connor Sheary, who?
Eichel, Reinhart.
Okay. Reinhart playing up there.
Skinner, Berglund, Okposo.
All right.
So
there's Skinner and Okposo right there on the second line. Both guys that can easily play second line roles.
And then they got Middlestat on the third line, and it's really where it drops off a little bit. But they got Tage Thompson.
Who's not bad. Tage Thompson's
not bad.
Really? I mean...
And then, we got the ghost of Zygmunt Girgensons. I don't know where that guy went, but...
So, I mean, whether they do well this year or not, they have such a future in that franchise.
This team this year we made off of the result of that O'Reilly trade.
Yeah.
that built their team. They got so much for him.
It's just like...
They got Tage Thompson, Patrick Berglund, Vladimir Sabatka, a conditional first-round pick.
That's right. Vladimir Sabatka, who really... I kind of like Vladimir Sabatka a lot.
He's a good depth player.
Yeah.
And a second-round pick for 2021.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about a team with a future locked down for 5 years at least. Like, to have some players that'll be
and they got
guys.
And they got a lot of picks, too.
Yeah.
This team's going to get scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the future. This team is going to get scary.
You have a chance to look at something great for the first time in a while.
I don't know. I'm not going to talk about their picks because a lot of them are confusing, to be honest, with the Sharks pick and how that works with their Carlson deal.
Yeah.
It's very weird. Like, if they make the playoffs, it goes to one team. If they don't, it goes to the other team.
Okay.
They dealt the same pick twice.
It's gonna be a pick that we're gonna have to look at.
Yeah, going down the line.
After the season, absolutely.
Yeah, because they dealt the same pick twice.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about this, and I couldn't even understand like what you were talking about either. So let's move on from Buffalo. Let's go to Florida. Florida's another team I'm kind of excited for as well. You'll talk about the Hoffman saga in a couple minutes, but let's talk about the team. One, as we just talked about in the Western Conference podcast, we had the Florida game that was currently happening.
Yeah, as we were watching, we watched Robert Luongo get hurt.
Yeah, brutal injury. Someone landed on his leg while he was goaltending.
Doesn't look good.
And didn't look good. He didn't get stretchered off, but he was not able to get off the ice on his own. We had something written in our notes saying, can Bobby Lou forget how old he is?
That's like a lot of times last year when he just became old Bobby, like Vancouver Canucks when they were running the show Canucks, President's Trophy Canucks.
Yeah.
Last year.
But now it's what happens with his injury first, and then we'll deal with that. So, I mean,
now it's probably going to be James Reimer for a considerable period of time because it looked like some sort of knee sprain.
Which James Reimer, he's carried a team
before.
Yeah, he's had the team on his back before because of
and not very good
Bobby
teams.
Lou's age, and that's right. Not very good teams.
He's carried some not very good teams,
and now his team is actually looking like they have some talent. You obviously have Alexander Barkov. You have Huberdeau. I like Huberdeau a lot.
Love him.
You have Bukestad, who might not have panned out like he's supposed to, but he's still not a bad player. He still plays on the second line. You have Evgeny Dadonov. He's not bad. You have Hoffman. Now you have some of these other guys that are good on defense. We have Mike Matheson. He's good. Young guy. You have Keith Yandel, who's a consistent... He's an Iron Man player there.
Apparently a hilarious locker room guy.
Oh, yeah. Apparently, Keith Yandel is a funny guy. He's an awesome hockey personality. We obviously have Ekblad.
Yeah.
Ekblad's awesome.
Ekblad is very, very good.
Very good.
That's putting it lightly.
And who do we have? I'm pretty sure we have Petrovic, right?
Oh, yeah, on their forwards?
Oh, no. Is he playing forward?
No, he's not.
No, defenseman.
Yeah, you're right.
Petrovic.
I confuse him with somebody else.
So they have a pretty rounded defense with some youth, with some veterans. I mean, the defense is pretty good.
It's got besides Ekblad, it's not a lot of. I mean, they're okay guys. We'll see with this identity of this team after they have that shake up with the analytics movement.
Mm-hmm.
Their forwards are pretty good.
Yeah, they have some depth. I mean, they're not bad.
They stole a guy that I liked from Boston in Vetrano.
Yes, Vetrano's not bad.
But their top six is very good.
Trocheck. Absolutely.
Trocheck, Hoffman, which maybe that might hurt the team. Maybe.
We
don't really know.
Talk about Hoffman for a little bit here. Tell us about this?
I mean, with the whole going back to Ottawa.
Yeah.
With the girlfriend, fiance, whatever her connection is.
I think she's a fiance, and then her with the Carlson family.
Very
very just terrible, explicit,
terrible things to say to somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Along with other players' wives, not Carlson one is the one that got the headlines, but apparently this was the same thing with Craig Anderson's wife, who
had cancer.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like, who is this woman? Why? maybe in Florida it's going to be different. I mean, guys in Florida and wives in Florida, they have to be a little bit weary of this. They have to know what's happening going in.
I would
it's a
assume
little bit
so.
sketchy.
We don't know how that would end up. Honestly, that's like kind of like, is she an issue or?
Yeah, but on the ice,
he's
Hoffman's
a
an
good
addition,
player.
completely an addition.
I find
to
it
his
funny though, like that. He submarined his own value because I remember at the deadline they were shopping Hoffman quietly, and they were asking for a lot for him.
Yeah, and then he ended up going in the offseason to the Sharks real fast.
I guess it'll be kind of our transition into Ottawa because now that we have.
It's really there you go. So wait, this trade literally that I'm going to talk about is literally for both teams, and we're going right into Ottawa.
Right into Ottawa after.
So Hoffman went from Ottawa to San Jose for a quick minute, and then went straight in like the same hour. Yeah, right to Florida. So, I mean, there's Hoffman in Florida. Now we'll go from where he's from,
and you know that
right to Ottawa
because Doug Wilson before the trade was finalized was shopping Hoffman, or already had a deal lined up for Hoffman in the East because that was another one of those things where Dorian would not trade a player to the East.
Yeah. That's right.
So he had a backdoor deal already done.
That's why the Carlson trade took so long as well. So, I mean...
Probably could have got more if he traded him.
It's kind of funny that they traded the Sharks twice like that. But, so here we are in Ottawa. Literally...
Screwed.
What?
I'm going to put it bluntly. They're screwed.
Come on. Ottawa, we want to talk positively about every team on here. We want to talk about the positives. But Ottawa, it is hard. I'm sorry, Ottawa fans. It is.
Yeah, for any Ottawa fans.
Honestly,
I'm with you guys. Like, you guys are getting screwed. You shouldn't take this.
Ottawa fans are like the best fans in the league at this point to me, just because if you're standing by Ottawa still, jeez. I mean, oh my gosh, look at all the free agents next year too. And
they don't pay anybody.
It's rough.
Stone's gonna leave.
Yeah,
Stone.
Is Stone on the team?
Yeah, they signed him to a 1-year deal because he wouldn't commit long term. Because why would you?
Who's the team they just dropped to the AHL or they put through waivers or whatever?
What are you talking about?
Didn't they just put a player through waivers? I forget who. But either way, Ottawa's a whole extravaganza.
They don't pay players because their owner's cheap.
Yeah.
Their owner's one of the most meddlesome owners in the NHL.
It's like they had that scandal with the whole what was that? With how the social media scandal with the owner, the GM or something like that.
Oh yeah, those Ukrainian bots.
In the off season, the whole thing, Ottawa, is rough. Yeah, you were bottom in the league last season.
He's like Jerry Jones but way more negative on the team if that's possible. Like,
yeah, it's brutal. It is honestly brutal. I mean, Ottawa. What do we talk about here? Craig Anderson. I want Craig Anderson to succeed, but he's not the best.
Craig Anderson to succeed because they cannot finish in the bottom 10.
No,
they cannot finish in the bottom 10.
How do they get How do they finish above the bottom 10? How?
Because they don't have their first round pick because they're dumb and they wanted Brady Tkachuk that bad apparently.
Yeah.
Before selling everything and getting Jack Hughes, so they chose Brady Tkachuk over Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
They knew they were blowing it up. They knew they were going to be able to keep it together. So they still kept the pick. So even if you do keep the pick, I'm keeping Brady Tkachuk as far away from this mess as I can and let him develop away.
Yeah, it's brutal. I don't.
But they're playing him.
I don't know what to say about Ottawa. Ottawa's rough. I don't see them not finishing bottom 5. With the competition they have, there's no way they're making the playoffs. Their positives are now gone anyway. It's brutal. I don't know.
Some of their best, like, they have a fourth line or AHL player. It's probably their starting center.
Yeah.
With Pajot getting hurt.
JG, yep, he's gone for like the season, I think.
Most of it.
So it's brutal. It is brutal. They have declined so quickly.
And it's not even like they're cash strapped. They really aren't. When you look at their cap, they got $7 million in cap space, but they have one of those internal caps.
Yeah.
They have their own cap limit.
Yeah.
The teams threaten Melnick, I think he said, won't sell the team. Just today made a statement about that. But he's always threatening to move the team.
Yeah. Ottawa fans have gone through a lot, and Still going through it, and it is sad.
How sharp the decline is from being one goal away from the Stanley Cup final
Yeah.
to now you are going to probably finish last
Again.
and not eat like last,
Oh, yeah.
and not have the pick.
Yeah.
You're going to hand another franchise player over to the Avalanche.
We feel for you, Ottawa fans. We really do. Move on to a different conference, or not conference, division. We're going into the Metro, and we're just going to start off with the Stanley Cup champion Caps. I'll take this away, seeing as I am a Caps fan. This team already, since we're 4 days into the actual season, started off so hot. In the 2 games they've played, they've scored 13 goals right now. I mean, come on. They lost to the Penguins in their second game, but they lost 6-7. It was in overtime. That's always how it goes between the Penguins and the Caps. The first game against Boston, top-tier team, they beat them 7-0. Brutal. Braden Holtby is hot as ever right now.
He let in 7 goals.
It's the Penguins. I don't even get concerned when it comes to the Penguins.
He let in 7 goals.
It goes that way for both teams with the Penguins and the Caps. That's fair. But either way, I mean, the team. The only difference I can think of when it comes to this team and who they lost is Jay Beagle. Jay Beagle was a big deal. He ran the fourth line for so many years in Washington, and he was a top penalty killer in Washington. But it's sorry to say Jay Beagle, but we can replace that. We picked up Nick Dowd. Nick Dowd's not too much, but Nick Dowd did score in the first game. He looked promising. So I'm not completely sold on Nick Dowd, but for the reason we have him, it's perfectly fine. The whole rest of the team's the same. Kuznetsov is a top player now. Kuznetsov looks great still. If Ovechkin can play like he did last year, you're looking at Ovechkin possibly, it's real slim, the chances, but possibly knocking on the door of the Wayne Gretzky record for scoring. Listen,
unlikely. But
if he gets 50 goals this year, Ovechkin, he's only like 100 goals out, under 150 goals out from the record.
Sure, I thought it was a couple he needs like 4 seasons of 50 goals. He's like 200.
He's close. He's close. Well, he's closer than any other player's
going to get. Oh, yeah, he's the only one that probably is going to touch it for a long time.
Absolutely. So, Ovechkin, he had that off year where he scored like 34 goals, and me and Jake were both like, this dude's gone. The Caps were thinking about sailing him off, which I actually backed up because he was deteriorating. Let's get value out of him. But the Caps gave him the choice to stay if he made a difference in the offseason to himself, which he did.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever seen Ovechkin come into a year without a beer gut.
Yeah, Ovechkin played like Ovechkin, especially in the playoffs.
Remember I said in the playoffs we saw vintage Ovechkin.
Yeah, you told me that, and I was like,
this looks like takeover series against the Habs Ovechkin. Yeah,
so this is an Ovechkin who can, if he's still as dangerous as he ever was. He's already scored 2 goals this season. He scored in both games. He's gotten an assist or 2. Ovechkin still, I don't see him deteriorating again this year. So you got that. Nicholas Backstrom, top center still. Oshie, the top winger, a top winger, I should say. Jacob Vrana, I know you like Jacob Vrana a lot. Jacob Vrana is a big deal. 2 years ago, we played him a few times in the pros.
So you're not as high on Burakovsky as I am.
No, I'm not. Burakovsky, because he's been on the Caps for 4 years now, and he hasn't panned out how I expected him to, how anyone expected him to. But he has these games where he looks promising. He skates well. He's also dealt with a little bit of injuries in the past 2 seasons. But for the most part, he's played a majority amount of games, and he's not bad at all. So Burakovsky, I'm actually a little bit convinced with you. The Caps are still the same team they were last year. They're still competing. They have Brooks Orpik again. I don't see any difference in this team from last year, really. So expect another season of a President's Trophy almost winning Capitals team. It's hard to do it in the league now. This season is going to be very competitive. But I believe in the past 3 seasons, the Caps have more wins than anyone in the league. And I expect that to continue through this season.
Consistently finish number 1 in the Metro of all.
Absolutely. I mean, the Metro's still competitive, but I feel like the Caps are a definite number 1 team. So, I mean, that's really it for the Caps. Goaltending, we have Phoenix Copley instead of Grubauer, but that's not that big of a deal. Hope he's still in. If he stays hot, the team's number 1 in the Metro, for sure. So we're going to move on right to the Flyers, and this one's all Jake. Take us into the Flyers right now, because the Flyers are very exciting.
They're really exciting to think about. It's always like you dream it, you think it's gonna be one way, and they added James Van Riemsdyk back to the lineup. I'm not a fan of the contract, but I think with some of the pieces, like he needs pieces around him. He's not a guy that's gonna. I know everyone's a lot higher on him than I am. Mm-hmm. He needs other people to make the play for him. But if you get in a dynamic player, he's gonna tap in and score goals all day long.
Absolutely.
He's gonna take the eyes away. We already seen it in preseason and this year, being that jerk in front of the net. He's the best player in the world from 2 feet out. They actually were playing him on a different line than I thought they were going to. I thought they were going to play him with Nolan Patrick and Jake Voracek, and I got really excited at that thought. I thought that was going to be a serious line to look out for in the NHL. But they actually have him and a young guy who we were earlier referenced when it happened, Mikhail Vorobiev, making his second game of his NHL career and scoring a goal. He had his first point in the last game,
which we just saw. Yep, that's what we kind of talked
they
about
have
real quick. For
him, Wayne Simmons, and James Van Riemsdyk on the same line.
And Wayne Simmons is on that little low contract.
Oh, yeah. Wayne Simmons
So
is on a
that's a
sweetheart
steal.
deal for
It's
this
been
last year.
A steal, yeah.
Unfortunately, I think this is our last year with Wayne Simmons.
Which is sad, but it's a business decision that makes sense.
I love what Mikhail Vorobiev brings to this team on that third line. Mm-hmm. He is fast.
Where was he last year?
Phantoms.
He was, okay.
He's an AHL call-up.
Gotcha.
I believe we drafted him.
Which the Phantoms have had a great
run.
couple of seasons.
Oh, they're scary.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the better development teams in the AHL. That's why I wanted another guy we drafted who's kind of been middling in juniors or having issues in Russia, not getting playing time. I wanted him to get to the American League as fast as possible to get him with our staff. And he had a goal tonight. So
yeah, I mean,
but with the NHL team, Vorobiev is fast and he makes plays. He carves through defenses and he can make passes and score. He is what you want as a third line center. He's not as much defensively as I've noticed, but he's aware. So that line's gonna have to be sheltered. They're not the best defensively.
Absolutely.
But they can score on that third line.
And the Flyers have a reputation, and people see the Flyers as this team where it's just like hitting, physical.
They really aren't that team anymore.
But this team that they're growing up to be with all this youth is not that team. They're a very skill-based team now.
They look a lot faster this year than I ever have seen them.
Offense, I mean, it is just from line 1 to 4, defensive pair from 1 to 3. They are a team who is just, like, watch out. In 5 years, a number 1 in the Metro team. I mean, other than goaltending, which isn't the most secure, but
that's going to be the question.
Is okay.
I don't think a lot of people who don't really know rip on the defense, but that is totally not.
I feel like unless you live in the metro area, in the tri-state area, you don't know too much about the Flyers. You don't know too much about their depth, but their depth is phenomenal. Borderline best in the league for sure. I mean, their defense in Provorov, Gostisbehere.
Provorov is a future Norris winner, and that is not just me.
Yeah.
He does not get the attention he deserves.
These are top guys for sure, and top guys to come. They're all young.
Robert Haig.
If you're a Flyers fan, you have no choice but to be excited for this team.
I love Robert Haig.
And
he was a second-round steal. Travis Sanheim is going to be another one of. It's like he's not Shane Gostisbehere level of offensive, but he's a very good scoring defenseman who's responsible.
I could be wrong, but I mean, you guys still have guys in the AHL.
Yes, we have
that are still able to crack an NHL roster. I think
we have one more star prospect left in the AHL for defense.
Who's that?
Philippe Myers.
Philippe Myers, yeah.
He is an undrafted player.
Mm-hmm.
He's 6'5", can skate, offensive. He's a good player. He's also right-handed, so that's a shortage position in the NHL is right-handed defenseman.
Absolutely.
The only thing is they give too much. The coach gives too much minutes to the wrong guys. That's the problem.
Well, I know you're not completely sold on the coach.
Coach plays bad players too much.
Yeah, but the team is just such a future.
Andrew McDonald is death by 1,000 paper cuts. He will always make the safe play.
Mm-hmm.
I did the analysis for it. You get much more scoring chances by controlled breakouts, leaving your zone, entering the other zone with control. McDonald is always off the glass and out.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough.
This is the reason why they get beat by the Penguins nowadays.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's out. Now they're right back in. It's out. Right back in.
Mm-hmm.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts. You don't get the puck out and get it in their own zone.
Fair enough. So, I mean, the Flyers are big in the future. They're exciting. And literally, just other than the goalie position, this team is locked down for plenty of years to come as a top team.
Carter Hart plays by December.
Yeah. And you know what? Yeah, that's not even...
I think Carter Hart plays in the NHL by December.
You can even dig on the goaltending because they have a top goalie prospect in Carter Hart, who's tremendous.
Not only do we have a top goalie hopeful, we have a lot of other ones who are not that level,
but
where he's expected to be, but very good starter level.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of them, a lot more than people think. There's about at least 6 I can think of off the top of my head.
So let's move on to not our favorite team, the Pittsburgh Penguins. For the most part, they are still the same team that we have known them as. They're still going to be the competitors we know them as. And...
same old story.
They're the same old story. They're going to compete for the Stanley Cup this year. They always do. Well, at least the past years. They always lose players. It's always, cap space.
The bottom 6 rotates out, but for the most part.
The top, Jake Gensel is still a guy that is youthful, and he's making moves out there. Malkin, Crosby, cliche guys, but they're cliche for a reason. They're the top guys, top defense. Matt Murray's still good.
Their defense is a question mark. It is a question mark. But with that, they just win.
Yeah.
They just win.
They
have probably one of the best coaches in the NHL.
And they're by far, Mike Sullivan, they're by far, still one of the biggest competitors in the league. They're going to finish top 3 in the Metro. There's no doubt. That's them.
Yeah.
There's not much to say about this team, really.
Besides the fact they made some questionable moves for cap space.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I shouldn't even say that because they traded Sheary and Hunwick to clear up, I think it was almost $6 million in cap space.
Yep.
But then spent $5 million of that for 5 years on Jack Johnson.
Which is interesting.
He's not a good player.
Jack Johnson is...
not a good player.
That's just interesting.
Not a good player.
Yeah. For 5 years for how much money? A year?
It's $5 million.
$5 million for 5 years?
It is exactly... No, I'm wrong. It's not $5 million. It's 3.2.
3.2.
For 5 years. But it's a term of 5 years.
Yeah.
It's a long time for a player who is, by any metrics of... And because you goalie or defensemen, you got to look at them in advanced analytics. There's nothing else you can look at. Yeah. There's no defenseman stats besides plus minus, and that's a nonsense stat.
Yeah. So really...
and by every advanced metric, it's like Jack Johnson is do not touch him with a 5-foot pole.
Yeah. It's not going to impact the Penguins. They're still the team. They're going to compete. There's not much to say for this team other than they're the same. You know what they've been in the past few years, and that's not going to change.
And that's what they are again.
Expect it again. Yeah, absolutely. So move on. Carolina, exciting team. Maybe some questionable moves. Hannafin gone. Skinner gone. Dougie Hamilton, though, top guy. He's in there now. They still have Sebastian Aho. Svechnikov is not bad. Svechnikov scored the other night. I mean,
their defense is one of the best in the NHL.
Scott Darling's a concern for me completely.
He's hurt.
And he's hurt. Who's their starting goalie now?
McElhinney?
Is it? And they only just got McElhinney last week.
It is... Where'd it go? Peter Mrazek and Curtis McElhinney.
Okay, Peter Mrazek.
Terrible.
I know you have feelings about Peter Mrazek, especially because he went to the Flyers.
Brutal.
I personally like Peter Mrazek a little bit. I've seen great sides to Peter Mrazek. I just don't think he's a starter.
I remember when the Flyers got him, I was happy because I remember him in the juniors.
Yes.
Got him in, brutal.
And I remember him even in the World Cup of hockey.
He's off. He's out of position every time.
But yeah.
He's brutal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think he's better than Scott Darling. I think he's better than what's been there in goaltending. But the team competes. They're not an easy team to play against.
They're jerks. The defense is jerks.
Yeah, but they're not, Jacob Slavin's not terrible.
Look at that.
Justin Falk is Justin Falk.
Their defense is great. It's great.
Trevor Van Riemsdyk. Wow, I did not know that. Yeah.
They got Calvin DeHaan, too, to add to that.
Calvin DeHaan. Their defense really isn't bad at all. Their offense, they just don't have the scoring power.
Who's going to score the goals?
Sebastian Aho and Svechnikov can't do it all. Jeff Skinner's gone now. Elias Lindholm's gone. Who do you have other than that now?
Nobody.
Do they still have Tara Vinen?
Yeah.
They still have
That's
Tara
a good deal,
Vinen.
too. They got him on a good contract, which is good because they're a poor team.
Justin Williams is a good captain, I think, for the team.
Yeah, but you got to make playoffs first.
Yeah. Mr. Game 7. So,
but they're a poor team. They're cash strapped from the internal.
Absolutely.
I believe they are the poorest team in the league. They might be.
Yeah. So I mean,
it was a big deal when
they don't have too much to work with.
Trying to get a new GM, they couldn't pay him. They couldn't pay anyone to really take the job.
I mean, for the defense they have, or for the money they don't have, and the defense they have, that's pretty solid. But they just don't have the scoring up front whatsoever, and they're still a team in process.
Jordan Staal is their biggest contract at $6 million.
Yeah, and that's
because Dougie Hamilton's on a sweetheart deal.
Still, for how long?
Another 3. It's this year and 2 more.
Who's locked down? Is that just Falk?
It's Jacob Slavin.
Jacob Slavin, good for them locking him down. For how much money?
5-3 for off the screen.
Yeah, for off the screen. That's like what, more than 5 years, right?
It's
more than 6 years. So they definitely have a future in their defense, but they need to work on their offense, and maybe they'll contend.
And Hayden Fleury's good too. I don't know if he's a good player, or I don't think he's really in the starting lineup yet.
Okay.
No, he's not on this. Well, not on what we're seeing. He might have played tonight, not updated this, but Hayden Fleury is a good player.
Either way, it's a team to look forward to in the future for sure. They're not as developed as Buffalo is, but they're youthful and they're getting there for sure. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I don't think they finish bottom 5 either.
I think they're a tough team to play against. They're hard to score against.
And their competition is the Metro Division, which is so tough.
And they play hard.
Yeah.
At least they did. I don't know with the new coach. Rod Brindamore.
I would think those defensemen play hard.
Former Flyer.
Still.
But
at least.
He's, I don't know if it's the best coaching to hire.
Yeah.
It's kind of screams old boys club to me because he's a former player for them, won them cup.
Yeah, exactly. But, we'll see. Let's move on to the Islanders. The Islanders are not the Islanders we know them as.
The New Era Islanders.
Yeah, Johnny T is not leading these guys anymore. This is a team that needs to build within now with what they have. I mean, Barzal had a promising year last year. He played with JT, though. No?
Yeah. A lot of points were with JT.
Yeah, so Barzal...
And a lot of secondary assists, too.
There's a lot of pressure on Barzal now. So, this is a lot of Barzal, can you do this?
A lot of Lou Lamoriello type moves in the offseason.
Yeah, Barry Trotz now on the team.
that's good.
That's a great
That's a good
deal
thing for them because they.
What's their defense look like? Because that's Barry Trotz right
It was
there.
bad last year.
What is it like now?
It's still bad. Same
I
guys.
believe Johnny Boychuk isn't playing. I believe he's injured.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah, he's out. So that's rough.
No, he's not.
No, he's not. He's playing?
Third line.
Interesting. So we have that.
So, like, Johnny Boychuk's on the third line. They got Lucas Pisa, who's brutal.
Yeah. I mean,
but that's the third pair. The Thomas Hickey is okay. He's not. He's under. Their second pair is underrated with Nick Leddy and Thomas Hickey. Their goalies are bad.
Yeah.
They lost
Who
out.
are their goalies now?
They lost out. I think it's the same ones. I got Leonard and I got Kreis.
Okay, so Robin Leonard has played a decent game in Buffalo for what was there.
Because they were they were the top offense and the worst defense.
Yeah. So it's brutal. It's a little bit rough. The Islanders are definitely in a stage where Barry Trotz is going to have to come.
Structure. I think they could do a lot with
Lamoriello
structure.
is going to have to. They're going to have to work on this team for years to come for them to be anything really.
You do not lose one of the best players in the world and be at the same level.
No. And even last year, with that player, they were still not at a level that can compete.
They were. I like some of the young players they have, like Beauvillier, big.
Yeah,
but
Beauvillier is awesome.
But still, it's the same thing. That has a ripple effect through the lineup.
Yeah.
John Tavares can allow you to put not as great players in the first line, and then put some of your more skilled young guys sheltered.
I mean, they still have Josh Bailey. They still have who else do they still have?
Anders Lee.
Anders Lee. Those are
Brock Nelson.
Those are consistent players that can do well. One of them is a captain now, I believe, right?
Jordan Eberle too.
Jordan Eberle who's the captain?
I believe
Josh
it was
Bailey or Anders Lee. One of those two are captain. I don't even remember.
I think it was.
It just happened within the last few days. But it's a very just
this could be a rough
team of
year
second line,
Islanders.
third liners, and that's that. There's no star talent unless Matt Barzal can really step up
could
his
be the guy
game,
that carries it.
It's a team that's going to struggle.
Him and the goaltenders are going to have to carry this team if they want to compete.
Yeah, Barry Trotz and Lamoriello are going to have to shop this next offseason. They're going to have to make some
they
stuff
signed
happen.
a lot of just guys.
We've seen what Barry Trotz can really do with the defense, with some potential, and Barry Trotz is going to have to make some moves. Lamoriello is going to have to give him some players to
they got
play with. I mean, that's really it for the Islanders. It's just plan on a rough year this year, and look hopeful for the future. Moving on, Columbus. Columbus is honestly, I would consider Columbus to be the most average team in the league. They're a team with the competition they're playing they're not going to land on top, but they're not going to land on the bottom certainly because they have a good team.
They're a solid team.
They're just not. I don't think they're just not like a top 12 team in the league, but they're not a bottom 12 team in the league. They land somewhere in the middle for me, right in there. They're a team where if they want to make the playoffs, they're looking at a wild card slot.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Some of the players in their team are very, very good.
Yeah, you have. I mean, Nick Foligno's a good captain. Bobrovsky's a great goalie. I think Bobrovsky's on his last year of his contract.
He is probably going to lose Panarin and Bob in the offseason.
Which is rough. I mean, Panarin's their biggest, most hopeful player they have. They have some other players. They have some youth. Zach Werenski. We've seen him do good.
I'm very big on Zach Werenski.
Wenberg, who's pretty
solid
good.
Player. Solid second line center.
Seth Jones.
Who, when he comes
out.
He's out with a knee.
Fair. But Seth Jones is a great player. We know that. Who else?
I mean, they got it's like one of those things. Like it's a John Tortorella team. They may not have a lot of names.
Yeah.
Which they do have names. Pierre-Luc Dubois is a fantastic player.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw what he could do last year.
Cam Atkinson's a good player.
Cam Atkinson's a great player when he is playing good. Last year was a little bit brutal with his play time being pretty low.
But it's a John Tortorella team, so they're going to play hard.
John Tortorella really, to me, is what separates this team.
Yes. Without John Tortorella or Bob,
I don't know what this team is.
This team is not close to a playoff team, I don't think.
And see, that's why I think this team is very average, because without two guys, they're nowhere close to playoffs. And with these two guys, they're making playoffs maybe, but just making playoffs. It's they have a future and they don't have a future.
They always have a really hot streak where they just destroy worlds.
Absolutely.
Because that's just the John Tortorella team. Like, really nothing else to explain it. For those who know, they play like a John Tortorella team.
Yeah.
Hard, physical, fast.
With youth. And that's them.
And low-key annoying to play against.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really, this team could go either way, I think, this season. And the competition has only gotten harder for them. So, they're going to have to work for their spot this offseason.
Some teams in the Atlantic stepped up.
Yeah, they're really going to have to work.
Some of the middle teams in the Metro, in my mind, took big steps.
Yeah.
To become kind of more of a hitter.
The Flyers, the Devils, making some strides. I mean,
yeah. So they're that team. I think they make the playoffs. I have them as a playoff team, which we'll get to the whole who makes and who doesn't.
Absolutely.
At the end of this.
Yeah.
They are one of my playoff teams.
Fair enough.
Now, I'm going to let Dom kind of take the Devils because he watches them a lot more than I do.
We live in New Jersey, as you guys probably know if you listen to the football podcasts. And I have season tickets to the Devils because they're cheap, I love hockey, and they're local. They're easy to get to. I'm a Caps fan, but I have no problem doing that. The Devils are an interesting team. They haven't really changed since last year.
They lost a lot.
They lost
a lot.
But I don't think it's going to impact where they land. Their players that really built this team around are still there. Hall was the heart. He still is going to carry this team. Nico, I expect him to have a better year. He had a great year last year for what he was.
He hit a rookie wall.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll call it what it is.
But I expect him to... He's fit into his role pretty nicely. He has chemistry with the team. I expect him to do well. Palmieri plays his role. Nothing's going to change there. Johansson...
Oh, he's back.
Johansson's back.
I totally forgot about him.
Which I think is going to make a difference for the team if he can stay healthy.
Yeah, because they don't have centers. That's their big problem.
No.
They don't have centers.
No. I mean, Zajac wins faceoffs, but that's all he can really do now.
Didn't he have 2 goals today?
He did have 2 goals, but that's the thing. He has 1 or 2 games a season where he scores. And then the rest of the season is just average.
He's not Zajac
all
of a couple years ago,
no,
like half a decade ago.
Pavel Zacha, he has a ceiling that he hasn't gotten close to yet. He hasn't hit, for sure. I know you liked him coming into the league when he was coming into the league. So, Pavel Zacha is there. Apparently, I mean, we have yet to see it, but their second line, Pavel Zacha, Johansson, and Jesper Bratt.
Jesper Bratt is
he's
hurt.
not. Yeah, I'll get to that. Apparently, their chemistry is like off the charts. They were the best looking line going through the preseason, and we're not even talking about Hall or Heischer or Palmieri. So apparently, the first 2 lines are really awesome. Jesper Bratt, he's interesting. He'll fluctuate throughout the year. He is out right now he had a fractured jaw. Something that happened in practice, got hit with a puck. He'll be out for 3 or 4 weeks. But that's not the biggest deal. Stefan Nason we signed. He's all right. He'll play his role. He'll do what he needs to do. Miles Wood can play pretty well. He's on here again.
I think a lot of the players last year played well over their skill level.
That's the thing. That is why they made it to the playoffs last year.
They were number 2 in that stat we mentioned. Vegas, they were number 2.
Absolutely.
Still way up there.
They their players outdid what they were supposed to do. Jesper Bratt, no one knew coming into the season, and he played incredibly well to start off the season. And guys like Miles Wood, Blake Coleman, Stefan Nason, guys, they didn't even get dropped off the NHL roster. They were on the NHL roster the whole season, and they played those roles well. Their defense is better than they've been in a while.
Just not good still.
Vatanen is still a top role on the team. Andy Green he's a captain. He's a good leader. He might not be the best on the ice, but he's consistent and reliable. Then you have guys like Steven Santini, Mirko Mueller, guys that we'll see how they do this year, really. They have the potential, but we'll see how they do. There's a lot of free agents coming into next year.
They got tons of money to throw at them, though.
Exactly, that's the thing. So, and they do have. They're not one of those teams that have like an internal cap. They have a cap.
They play with the cap.
It's the same owner as the Sixers.
Yeah, the Sixers bought them.
So they have a cap, or they don't have an internal cap, I should say. So they have money. Ray Shero has done pretty well with the team with what he has.
I'm not a fan of Ray Shero.
You're not a fan of Ray Shero, but I like what he's done with the team. The Adam Henrique for Vatanen trade was awesome. I thought benefited both teams. I was happy with it. Corey Schneider just needs to play how he's supposed to play. That's a big part of the team right now. Is Corey Schneider's? Yeah, he's not in right now. I know that. That's a fact. But when Corey Schneider when he's active on the roster, he just needs to play how he's supposed to play. He needs to play how he's supposed to pan out to play. He has really consistent games, then he's really inconsistent. He had an insanely bad second half of the season last season. But then you compare him to Braden Holtby. Braden Holtby had an insanely bad second half of the season last season. So the Devils are a team that definitely have a future. But for now, if they're going to make the playoffs, it's going to be like Columbus. It's going to be in a very average way. They're going to be making wild card. They made strides last season to end up in first place in the Metro, but it didn't last long. They're still competing against the Penguins. Even the Flyers are in there now. You have the Caps, obviously. So it's a brutal it's a brutal division to play in. But for years to come, they have a well-rounded team for a future. So really just look for the future.
I don't see any prospects in their pipeline that would help this.
They have
I am very
Ricky McLeod. They have Joey Anderson.
I'm not high on him. I'm not high on really anyone they got besides Ty Smith they just got.
Ty Smith I like a lot. He's not playing this year.
He's not going to play for a couple years, but I'm high on Ty Smith.
I do like Ty Smith a lot.
All the rest are just guys.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't think your number 2 cracks the top 15 of the Flyers prospect pool.
But here's the thing. Guys are what made up the team last year, and they overplayed. Exactly.
Keith Kincaid played like a...
Oh, yeah, no one saw that coming either.
Like, without Keith Kincaid, like, selling his soul to the devil.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
For the second half of the season.
For the whole season. And then
what
was it? Appleby, when it just came in for a period of time.
There was Blackwood, there was Wedgwood.
Still all came in and played. Yeah. Like the whole team just played well over their level. I do not see them getting close to what they did last year.
That's fair. I see them improving. Well, I see them developing better than they did. Like continuing to develop since last year. Maybe not having the season they did, but
because they don't have centers and they don't have a good defense and on paper don't have a good goalie. But
no.
Their best center.
Corey Schneider has a ceiling.
Their best center is more of a winger.
Yeah, that is fair.
He plays like a winger.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how that goes. I mean, players would definitely need to step up. Again, continue to step up to play the season they played last year.
With centers, they don't play Johansson at center. I think that would help a lot if they played him at
Johansson can play center. That is a definite. He played center for the Caps for a little bit, and they interchanged him. Johansson can play center for sure. But apparently the Johansson line is, like I said, making strides. So, I mean, that's the Devils. That can be a team that goes to the playoffs. That could be a team that doesn't. So that's that. Let's move on. The New York Rangers.
Final team to get to. Definitely, I mean, sorry to say it, but not saving the best for last. This is a team that struggled, to say the least, last year, and they completely embraced rebuilding. See, I was going to say that last year they put themselves on the fast track to rebuild and maybe could be competitive at the deadline last year.
Yeah.
They didn't follow up on those moves.
They didn't.
They didn't follow up on those moves.
I mean, who's the big trade from Tampa Bay?
Nemesnikov. He's threatened to go to the KHL.
Nemesnikov was a guy that played well last season because of who he played with. He played on a line with Kucherov and Stamkos. Yeah, you're going to play well on that line.
And he got paid a lot of money because he threatened to leave.
Yeah. It's I don't know how the Rangers do this year. I really don't. They're not even close to the team they started with last year, and they're nowhere close to the team 2 years ago. And absolutely a completely and utterly different team than when they made the Cup.
See, I know we talked about this years ago, and I said the writing's on the wall, and no one believed me. The writing's on the wall. Trade Lundqvist now.
Yeah.
And this was like, I would say maybe 3 years, at least 2 years ago, when no one really saw it.
We don't know where we're at with Lundqvist right now.
Because at that time, it was still Lundqvist.
Yeah.
And you could have gotten the moon and the stars, and you wouldn't have to rebuild. You'd have them ready to go when the breaking point happened. I would be a lot more higher on them if they were playing guys like Elias Anderson. They're not, though. They didn't follow up on the moves that they had from last year, like the moves they made and the stuff they picked up. They drafted good players, but again, they're going to be a year out. Vitaly Kravtsov's not going to play this year because he's still stuck in Russia.
Yep.
I liked Vitaly Kravtsov. They took him too high, though. They like Keandre Miller they drafted. Not going to play for a while. There's his long road rebuild
To me,
now.
the Rangers just don't have anyone consistent. I mean, Matt Zuccarello has been there. Kevin Hayes. Other than that, what else do we have on this team? Chris Kreider that's been there. But these are not top guys, and they're playing top roles. I don't know.
You know it's bad when the Flyers walk into Madison Square Garden and manhandle them. They never do that. They have never in their history really done that, besides 2 playoff runs when they made the finals. That is our house of horrors, Madison Square Garden. And last year we manhandled them in their own building. I don't know what it is about Madison Square Garden, but for our franchise, it's been rough. And for some reason, we just can't win there, no matter how good our team is versus theirs. Aside from the Legion of Doom year, and then the Stanley Cup year. But last year, we just ran over them, and that's a sign. That's a bad sign.
I don't see the Rangers making the playoffs this year. Not in this division. They're gonna have a year that the Rangers are not used to, just like they did last year. And it's weird to see that, just because they've been a top competitor.
Because they went from one top coach to with a good goalie and a good defense core that now is all that team is all down in Tampa.
Yeah, the whole team is.
But they went from one great coach to another, which rarely ever happens, with still a very good goalie. And now both of the coaches are gone. The bottom's dropped out.
I don't know where this team's going to be.
They didn't pick up value for their top asset, and now he's a shell of himself. Yeah.
So, Rangers fans.
Help.
The same thing
help is on the way.
Help is on the way. Yes.
It's not going to.
They are rebuilding, and they've embraced that, and they're gonna do it. And
they embrace the rebuild, and they hit the button, and they're doing it well.
Yeah.
They acquire as many picks as possible.
They could have done it. They could have continued to fast track it. I feel like, but
they could have fast tracked it if they started before they needed to.
Yeah, but they really kind of just dove headfirst into the rebuild.
They have the goalie. They believe they have their goalie in their system. I always forget his name, and I'm gonna have to look it up.
Is it on this depth? Yeah, it might be on this depth.
If they have him signed, I'll be able to see it. I always forget his name, but I know they have one that's going to be there. He's not signed. All right, no, there he is. Igor. Oh, God, that's his name. God. Sisterkin. Yeah, it's...
If you're a Rangers fan, you know exactly.
You know who he is. A lot of people do know. He's one of the better goalie prospects out there. Same with the Islanders. Yeah. Islanders have a good one too. Sorokin, I believe his name is. So help is on the way. They got a lot of first round picks that just aren't playing. So that's a good sign, to be honest. It's from someone who's had the patient Ron Hextall running the show. That's a good. You want them down there. You want them. If you're going to be bad, you don't want them on the team. And I like a lot of the picks they've made. At least the first rounders.
So, I mean, that's that for our outlook of the Eastern Conference. We did the Western Conference last podcast. We're creeping up on an hour and a half, which is going to be the longest podcast. But we're going to continue right on ahead
with the
predictions. So we're going to talk about the playoff predictions, and then we're going to move on to our predictions for the awards. I have all of Will's predictions.
We're just going to do who makes it, because you can never, with hockey, you can never tell who wins.
We're not going to talk points. We're not going to talk records.
You can never tell who actually wins the cup, because it is the biggest crapshoot in sports.
Yeah, we're not talking into playoffs either. No. We'll do that when the time
comes. Who makes the team? Who makes
the playoffs, and maybe where? So let's go right with Will's. We'll start off with Will's, segue into
Start with just the West.
Did you write these down for yourself? Because
I got them on my phone.
I'm going to have to go. I didn't write this down. I'm going to have to go.
All right, well, read off Will's, and then I'll get to mine. And
Will has, we'll start Pacific. Will has in the Pacific, San Jose winning the conference, then falling to second LA and third Vegas. And then he has the Anaheim Ducks as the first wild card team. Then in the Central Conference for him, he has Nashville number 1, Winnipeg number 2, Minnesota number 3. With St. Louis
as wild card 2.
As wild card 2, absolutely.
I have a little different.
All right.
I have I have the Sharks in their division. The Sharks 1, Flames 2, Oilers 3. I think Talbot, although it's not looking good already with him getting shelled today, Cam Talbot. And in the Central, I got the Preds as the number 1 overall in that conference.
Okay.
So they get the wild card 2 team. Mm-hmm. The Jets at number 2, and the Blues at 3.
Fair.
And the wild card 1 is LA. Wild card 2, Vegas.
All right.
I guess I'll start with my East picks before we get to Will's, and then
let me
you got yours? Do you have yours yet?
I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna lead right into this. Don't quote me on these. I didn't write these down. I didn't work
all
through
off the
this
cuff.
yet. But I'm doing this totally improv. All right, ready?
So we'll do it live.
We're gonna talk Pacific. All right, my brain's gonna. I'm just gonna talk what's going on in my brain right now. Pacific.
1, 2, 3. Let's
do a 1, 2, 3. Let's go with Pacific. I'm gonna have San Jose number 1. All right, San Jose. They're a favorite for number 1. I'm gonna go with that, and I'm gonna pick them as number 1. Number 2, I'm also gonna have Calgary. I think Calgary is a team that people need to look towards as a top team. Mike Smith, if he's healthy, he's gonna bring that team to success. He's a top goalie, and he's gonna make that happen. And number 3, I'm gonna have as Anaheim. Anaheim has players with potential.
You think they overcome the injuries?
I think they're going to step up. I think players are going to step up. I think their youth is going to step up, and John Gibson is going to have a great year. So I'm picking Anaheim.
Is San Jose your number 1 overall in the conference? Or?
Yeah.
Yes? So, okay, I'll give it that. For the record, this is...
Wait, overall in the conference? No.
So they're not the number 1 in the conference?
They're number 1 in that division,
okay.
No. Absolutely. I'm glad you're right.
Got to mark it in down for the record.
So that's that. So I had number 1 San Jose, number 2 Calgary, number 3 Anaheim. All right. Then let's move over to the Central Division. Central Division, I'm gonna put. Oof. It's kind of rough.
This one was rough for me to pick.
This Central Division is such a competitive division, man.
At least the first 2 and where they got was rough for me to figure.
Yeah,
I
want to pick one over the other, but I don't know if I can. I'm gonna put Nashville first. Nashville first in that conference again. Nashville is so well rounded that like I can't not pick Nashville. Every position they have great players. They have a well rounded play in every division or every position. Then I'm gonna pick Winnipeg number 2. I guarantee that's probably what you picked. That's probably what Will picked.
That's what I got.
You can't not pick that after the year they just had leading into. They haven't really changed their teams, so it is what it is. Number 3 in that division. It's rough. This is a rough division, man. Number 3 in that division. It's so hard to pick. I'm going to pick the...
Going off the board with it?
Man, that's rough.
Shoot your shot. Let's go.
I'm going Calgary. Colorado, my bad. Colorado, number 3.
And the wild card 1.
Wild card 1 is going to be LA.
LA.
And wild card 2, I'm going to have Chicago.
Whoa.
Barely.
Whoa.
And when I mean barely, I'm talking about it's coming down to the last game to a point or two over the Blues.
Whoa.
Yep.
Big shooter here.
Chicago's taking that number 2 wild card. They're going to have a little bit of a bounce back year, but they're certainly not going to have a great year. They're going to have a decent year.
So we want to
that's that.
start with me or Will for the East.
Let's read off Will. We'll go in the same order.
Right.
So Will taking the Eastern Conference. He has in Atlantic, he has Toronto taking the first, Boston taking the second, Tampa taking the third. The big 3, we've already talked about that. You know how that goes. Then he has in the Metro, Washington taking first, Philly taking second, which is a huge improvement from last year, and Pittsburgh taking third. Then he has New Jersey taking the first wild card and Florida taking the second wild card.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible. What are you thinking with Atlantic?
The Atlantic, I got the Lightning as the number 1.
Okay, super team.
They are the number 1. They are number 1. They get that top seed and then play the wild card 2.
All right.
And the Leafs
At number 2, yeah.
number 2. Bruins 3.
Okay, it's got to be those 3. You can't not pick those 3 in that division. Then what do you have in Metro?
The Penguins 1.
All right.
Flyers 2.
Oof.
Caps 3.
dropping the 3, huh?
Caps
It's going
3.
to be a tight division, though, again this year.
Wild card 1 to the Jackets.
Nice.
Wild card 2 to the Panthers.
Fair enough. Honestly, I could probably do this right off the top of my head. Atlantic. Big 3. Come on now. Toronto number 1.
It's all about what order.
It's all about what order. Toronto number 1. The Lightning number 2. You know what? This is bold.
Going bold.
I'm putting Florida at number 3.
Oh.
I don't think Boston's gonna have a great
This is
year.
where we need the sound bites.
The sound.
The-
I don't
the
even know what
soundboard
sound.
going.
Just like ooh, that kind of sound bite. I don't even know.
I don't know.
Like a whole crowd doing it.
I don't know.
Either way, I don't think the Bruins are going to be the team they were last year. I don't see them making that. Metro, I'm going to pick the Caps number 1. Same team they were last year. Then for number 2, I'm taking the Penguins number 2. It's going to be a tight division. Number 3, this is a brutal division, I'm not going to lie. You know what? I this might even be how it landed last year, but I'm taking Columbus number 3. I think the Flyers are going to be a little bit streaky again and have some cold streaks, hot streaks. It depends on where they land.
Oh, who gets the number 1 in the conference? Who plays wild card 2?
Number 1 in the conference, Toronto. Absolutely. Wild card 1. I'm going to put Philly wild card 1. And wild card 2, the Bruins. I believe the Bruins are just not going to have that.
All the big 3, you have them squeaking in.
Squeaking in. I mean, there's a considerable drop-off past the Bruins and the rest of the league from there.
The Atlantic. At least last year there was. I think Florida closed the gap late in the year. I think they keep it close this year. I think
Buffalo's hard though because
Buffalo
Buffalo's in there.
closed that gap, but they're probably gonna be a good, I would say, 7 point short. They're gonna be a clear divide, but not like the cliff drop there was last year.
I agree with that completely. And that's gonna round that out. Those are our predictions right there for the playoffs. We'll continue to keep you on track with those as the season goes. And
we got one last thing. Got the awards. Just the
the awards.
Just the main ones. None of that Masterton or
those are too crazy. Those are like player stuff and then,
or the Clancy or whatever it is. The
Ken Clancy and stuff.
None of
Lindsay that. Let's go right for the heart, right off the top.
Here, hold on, let me get this set up real quick so I can get
step
mine
that
down
up.
here.
I'll talk about Will's. Will for the heart is going to choose Tavares, which is bold, but it's a little bit cliche as Tavares is that big deal in the offseason. He's playing on Toronto, playing with players that can they're established as playing hard. So that's Will's pick, Tavares. What is yours for the Heart? Have you done these yet?
I have them on my phone, yes.
Oh, so you have. So I'm still improvising here.
I have...
What do you have for the Heart?
For the Heart, I don't have it written down, but I already knew who it was. I have McDavid.
McDavid.
I have them making the playoffs. I think if Edmonton makes the playoffs, I think he's going to perennially get the Heart.
All right. You know who I'm going to take as the Heart? You're going to love me for this. I'm going to take Giroux as the Heart this year. I am going to take Giroux as the Heart this year. He's just like... He knocked on the door.
You're taking the Flyers for a vote award. That's a pop.
I'm doing it. Dude...
They don't get those.
Giroux is gonna have a year. This team's only gonna get better.
I'm gonna burst your bubble here, dude. If Giroux didn't get one this year, he's not gonna get one.
Dude, I'm saying he's taking it.
He didn't get a nomination, and
I'm saying he's taking it this year.
This was the 6th highest scoring in the last decade that he just had.
Yeah, I mean, Giroux has had the most points since he's come into the league. That's a constant stat.
It's actually fell to second.
Behind who?
Crosby.
Okay. Crosby.
The off year he had, the World Cup year, dropped him the second.
Fair.
It's like he's behind by like 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, still. So, Giroux's just... I'm taking Giroux. That's that.
All right, let's write it down for
You write this down. And then after that, honestly, then we're going to move on to the Art Ross. To be honest, I don't see either three of us choosing someone different.
It's gotta be Connor.
Will's taking McDavid. Jake's taking McDavid. I'm taking McDavid. Come on. I mean, the guy... You can't not take McDavid.
He's the best player in the NHL.
Is the best player in the NHL. He has the most points last year. He said he's coming out. He's out for blood this year. I mean...
He's probably the only guy in the league that you cannot stop.
No, absolutely.
He does what he wants.
Speed, the skill set, it's
there's
insane.
There's no one on the back end that can match him.
Absolutely not. So, I mean, McDavid all the way around. Then we're going to move on to the Vezina Trophy winner.
Will's got Hellebuck.
Will's got Hellebuck. Which is interesting.
Mine's probably... I don't remember who won it last year.
Pekka
I
believe
won.
it was Pekka.
I have Bobrovsky.
Fair. Very fair.
It's probably not off the board at all. Probably a pretty safe pick. I have Bobrovsky.
All right.
You're the number one cop on the force, Bobrovsky.
I have to think about this for a second because I haven't done these yet, obviously. Let me look at these teams real fast. Blah, 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 blah. Frederick Anderson, I feel, might be a candidate this year. Maybe not. Martin Jones, possible candidate this year. Maybe not. Pekka is always up there. It's rough. I mean, Hellebuck's a definite consideration. Even Fleury. Oh, I would love if it was Mike Smith, but I'm not going to pick Mike Smith. That would be fantastic.
Hey, if they make the playoffs, he might have to have one of those performances.
Yeah, but he can do it.
I think they finish high, but
yeah. I don't want to be that guy, but I might have to take Braden Holtby.
It's not a bad answer. It really isn't. He had a bad year last year, is why it wasn't considered.
Yeah,
to start, and he had to reclaim his job in the playoffs. But
yeah, which he did, and he played fantastic. And I don't see him slowing down at all, whatsoever.
So Will's Calder pick's taking a hit right off the bat because he's in the AHL.
Will's not the most hockey knowledge guy as me and Jake.
In our notes right at the start when he starts his playoff prediction. Will's crappy predictions, smiley face.
Yes. I mean, they're not incredibly that off, but this one might be a little bit. So for the Calder, the Rookie of the Year, Will has Philip Zadina.
He spelled it wrong, too.
I mean, all right, listen. It is possible.
It's possible he comes up and destroys worlds.
But I'm not picking Philip Zadina. Do you have this written down for yourself?
I do have my pick already.
What do you have?
I have a dark horse candidate too, but
Okay.
I'm not going to hedge. I'm going to go with the number one. I was going to put it out there for the record for people out there.
All right.
I have Elias Peterson winning it.
Fair.
But I'd have a dark horse, Kotkaniemi.
Yeah.
Do not sleep on him.
Honestly, I don't blame you whatsoever. This is hard. Just because I haven't done... This is a category you kind of need to do a little bit of...
A little bit of know who's playing, who's not.
Yeah, so I haven't done that research. Seeing how this year has already played out, seeing
That's
how
Svechnikov, Delin.
the preseason has gone...
It's usually a highly touted guy who wins it, too.
I'm thinking that it might be Elias Peterson. Just because the team he's playing on, he's almost... Whatever production he has is going to be almost top of that team.
He even got Louis Eriksson points.
He did. That's a big deal. He got Louis Eriksson points, which is a big deal. I think that if anyone's going to do it, especially compared to who's on their team, it's going to be this guy, and that's going to be a consideration.
That on his first goal was beautiful.
It was.
It was beautiful.
I mean, the guy is talented as all, you know. So, all right, Selke will choose Coots. He chose the,
Flyers for a vote award.
Boy.
For a vote award.
Couturier. What are you choosing?
If you don't go Bergeron, you're dumb.
That's that.
Really
if you don't go Bergeron, you're dumb. You ready for this? This is a bold pick. And I've already talked about him.
You forgot the Richard on here.
Doing well. Yeah. You
forgot the Richard on here.
So, for the Selke, I'm going to be bold. I'm probably going to be wrong, just like my football defensive player of the year in that one, but I don't care. I'm going Jonathan Toews.
Johnny Toews.
Johnny T.
Where'd it go?
I'm going to go with Captain
Sirius?
JT. Captain Sirius. I think he's going to have a year in his career and a super bounce back for him production-wise on defense and offense. Let's move on to Norris. Will chose Doughty.
Not a bad pick.
You can't ever hold back Doughty on that. I mean, it is what it is. What do you have?
Hedman. Victor
Hedman winning it 2 years in a row. Fair enough. I can't choose Erik Karlsson or Brent Burns because they're on the same team.
I think they pull away from each other, to be honest. Everyone's saying one of them's going to win. I think
they're going to
detract
exactly. They're going to split those votes. That's that. Jeez, dude. Jeez, when you think of Norris Trophy winners,
a lot of them are out of the picture because
exactly.
Duncan Keith has been, unless he has a bounce back, which
I don't think
it's going to be harder. It's going to be hard to have a worse season than he did last year, but
exactly,
it's not going to be Norris Trophy level.
You can't pick anyone on the Predators because their whole defense is too good. They pull away from each other.
Roman Josi might win it, but
I was thinking about it, but then again, still they pull away from each other. You know, if two of them have great years,
do you go out of the blue and have Delin?
No, I can't do that.
Get the Norris Trophy.
Listen, the Norris Trophy is for guys that have been there and they're veterans
for a while. You usually have to take your licks for a few years to get the Norris.
So you know what? I'm gonna go Drew Doughty. I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna go Drew Doughty. And
Richard, Will forgot it, so he doesn't even have
we're
one.
just gonna say Will's gonna take Louis Eriksson, right? Louis Eriksson. That sounds about Will.
He's gonna take Christian Dvorak.
Let's just give him.
Let's give him a
Tanner Kuro.
Okay.
Let's give him Tanner Kuro, dude. On Vancouver, the guy's gonna shine. That's from Will's perspective.
Right, what's yours?
Write down Tanner Kuro just so it's on record.
Well, you're on the space.
Will chose Tanner Kuro. Oh, my bad. You write it down now. Tanner Kuro. Look at that. Will going bold. For me,
your pick.
Honestly, for me, this is between Patrick Laine and Ovechkin again.
So which one are you going with? One for the record. Go with one.
I said Ovechkin's knocking on that door on the Wayne Gretzky possibility. I'm choosing Ovechkin. 50 goals again. I mean, unbelievable. I'm in the way again. Sorry. With my fucking...
I already did it.
my cursor.
And I got mine. Mine's probably gonna shock some people.
But it's completely.
When you look at my reasoning, it makes total sense. But I don't think people would really think with this. I think they probably think maybe Besser, maybe Line Ovechkin.
I don't know about Besser, but definitely Line Ovechkin.
I have Austin Matthews,
which I think is completely fair. It's completely possible.
I have a whole reasoning for this too. Like I got all written down. Austin. No one has scored more goals per game since Austin Matthews has come in the league.
That's fair, yeah. No, and it's completely true. I mean, especially with JT on the line.
He's on the line.
Oh, they're not
He's on the power play, I think, together. But
I mean, still,
he scores a lot of power play goals, and you saw his classic one in that first game.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's usually William Nylander who gives him that pass from out there, and you saw in the playoffs too, the exact same goal. They score it a lot.
Yeah,
and he scored it again today.
I mean, just now thinking about who I wanted, I thought about Austin Matthews, but I was still going Ovechkin.
He's very good.
Yeah.
People don't like him because he's a Leaf.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well, that wraps that up. I
do have one thing I'm going to go out there with.
What's that?
I'm going to say, I know we said we're not going to do who wins what playoff series, but I have one that's going to, I got to put on the record now because when it happens, I look like a genius.
All right.
I said this to Jason, who's in the room, earlier, about a couple weeks ago. In the West.
Okay.
The Sharks beat LA.
Yes.
The Flames beat Edmonton.
Okay.
Flames beat Sharks second round.
Really? I like this because I'm excited for the Flames. I really am. I really want the Flames
Sharks
to do
lose
well.
To the Flames. And I'll just say I don't know how it gets there, but I believe it's going to be an all-Canadian Western final with the Jets and Flames.
Really? That would be awesome. I'd be excited for that. I would be super excited for that.
But I don't have anything else because the rest is just a crapshoot. But I think just because I want to put that one out there.
If you are still listening to this, to any of the audience listening to this, God bless you. We're at an hour and 51 minutes. Jeez. If you've listened to the Western one and this one, let me know where you live or something. I'll shake your hand in person. Thank you. As always, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at We Are For The Fan. This is our first of our hockey podcast. This is obviously going to always be the longest one. The preseason stuff is always the longest. But from now on till about January, we're going to do a podcast for hockey every other week. Jake, we're going to try and get Jake on here as much as possible. Obviously, he's very knowledgeable.
Availability is a little rough, but...
Yep. We'll get him on as a distance. We're working on...
Skype calls
on this. We were going to do it with Will. We had a little bit of trouble, but we'll work on it. We'll have other people on it. We'll have our friend Jason on here.
Hello. Oof.
Oof. We'll get there when that happens. So that's that. And as always, thank you very much. Listen to football. Look forward to hockey. Our football's every week.
I guess it's time to try and look what the McGregor fight's about to do.
That's right.
That should be coming up soon.
And awesome time, guys. Thank you very much. Look forward to this podcast now. See you later.